Hey, what's up? This is Scott with Level Up Tutorials, and in this video, we're going to explore using parameters in FlowRouter. Now, what we can do with that is take the parameter out of the router and then use that to get data. So what we're going to be doing is building an individual recipe page so you can select a link and it's going to automatically load the correct recipe. So let's get going on that right now. Okay, so we now have some things set up pretty well here. We have our template level subscription. We have all of our recipes here. But let's say we wanted to select one of these recipes and maybe click a view details button and go to that recipe based on the ID as a parameter in the URL. Well, we can handle that simply by, let's head to our recipe.html file. Let's actually go ahead and add a read more link so we can just have an anchor tag here. And now inside of our path here, when we construct our path, we can say / recipe / and then inside of here, we can get the current ID and we can say view details. And maybe we don't even include the description on this listing, and maybe we only viewed the description on the detailed list. That's sort of something that's up to you and how you want to structure this sort of thing. So now that we had our page here, let's head out and we see this view details button, and when we click the link, you can see we get a URL path recipe and then an ID. So you can see that there's no route for that. So let's go ahead and create a route right now. We can head to our routes.js and let's go ahead and add a route here. We can say FlowRouter. I'm just going to copy this. And let's go ahead and add this just as recipe. And now we can say /. Now here's an interesting thing. We can go ahead and actually have an ID here. The way we want to specify a parameter is by simply saying colon and then the parameter name. In this case, it's going to be just ID. Now you could have this be underscore ID to match what the actual property is, but I prefer without the underscore for this sort of parameter. It's up to you at this point. It's really not anything that's amazing. I mean, we could even have this be something like recipe ID. Now, what we want to load is we don't want to load recipes. We don't want to necessarily load the recipe. We could just say recipe single and make a new template. That way we're not stuck using the exact same template that we're using for the listing. I know in some instances you might want to have one single template for the listing itself and the individual. In this instance, we do not. We can say new file recipe single.html. Let's make a new template. Name is equal to what we've been using, recipe single, and we can just simply output recipe.name. Okay, now obviously we haven't loaded up any data here. The recipe helper doesn't exist or anything. So let's go ahead and get started on that. While we're at it, we can just actually refresh our page and we can actually see that we are loading up a page here. So the route is officially working. However, let's actually go ahead and add like an H1 or something here just to say hello, to make sure it is in fact getting this recipe single.html template. Cool, so you can see that our route is in fact working. Okay, so now let's go ahead and wrap this in an H1 and then write our helper. Now we want our new recipes file to be recipe single. So first I'm going to go ahead and copy recipes.js because we're going to use this as sort of a template here. And I'm going to make a new file and it's going to be recipe single.js. I'm going to paste this new stuff in here. And I'm going to modify it to say recipe single. .onCreated and recipe single.helpers. Okay, so now we want to change this recipes obviously to recipe, and here we can simply just say find one. Now, if all of this is correct, we still are using the self-subscribe. We're using recipe single. We're grabbing a single recipe using find one. So let's go ahead and check out our HTML page. And you can see we just have ahi tuna in here. Now, ahi tuna may or may not align with this ID. We haven't done anything to necessarily say, hey, use this ID yet. So let's go ahead and get started on that right now. What we can do actually is we can make sure that our helper is only looking for that ID. We can get that ID using a function called FlowRouter.getParam. So inside of our recipe single here, inside of our function, we can simply say var ID is equal to, and then FlowRouter.getParam. Now we can get the param, and inside of here is a string of what the param name is. Now the param string name here is, if we head to routes, you can see that it's :ID, so it's everything after the colon. So therefore the param ID is just ID. So we can say get params ID. That should be able to grab us directly from the route itself this value. Now we want to use that value in our find one statement to find our object. So we can say return recipes find one, and we can find one with an underscore ID of colon and then ID, like so. Now what's going to happen is when it looks through our recipes, it's only going to find the one with the ID from the parameter. If we head to our page here and refresh, you can see that it is in fact ahi tuna. That's correct. However, if we go to salad now, you should see salad. And if we go to fish tacos, you can see fish tacos. From here, we could add any of the other parameters that we want to display, and we could set up the default listings page like so. So as always, this is Scott with Level Up Tutorials. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.